welcome everyone to this TV episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio. We're always glad to have you here with us, and we're going to talk about 2021. What's it going to look like for manufacturing? With me is Lou Weiss, who is a manufacturer at All Metals and Forge Group. He's also the sponsor for Manufacturing Talk Radio and host on this show. Lou, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always fun doing this with you. We make so much money at it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the big question is, what's 2021 going to look like? And despite what we might be reading in various news reports coming out of industry sectors, I'm not as convinced that it's going to be as rosy as everyone is predicting. How about you, Lou?
Well, I guess you've been doing the same kind of introspective thinking over the past week as I have. My being home for 4 days in a row is like unheard of. I'm usually in the facility or the offices. That being said, I really been dwelling. I knew we were going to do this show, and I collected certain information and reports and so on. And you and I do the ISM report, and we do a couple of other reports, strategy. Is that it?
Strategics.
Right. So thinking about and talking about what's coming down the road for manufacturing, which represents, as you and I have claimed for years, represents about 30% of our economy. It's no small number, so it's really quite important. But manufacturing relies on other industries to generate the products and revenue and so that they need. I'm sort of looking at this coming year as or maybe 2 years, of the reconstruction of the American Republic. And not talking politics, just talking about what needs to be done to reconstruct this country to a different place than where it is now. And if part of that is politics, so be it. But the other thing is, we have infrastructure, we have financial issues. Not so much concerned about the national debt because that's never going to get paid anyway. But there's, we've got COVID. I could go, 3 days I thought about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of subject matter. We could go on for hours. There are a number of things that could upset the economy. I think it's in a fragile state at the moment. If we manage to get people inoculated against COVID and back to work, that will help. But there are a lot of people across the country who, because they've been out of work, they aren't getting a paycheck. The payroll protection program didn't put the equivalent money in their pocket, and they haven't been paying their rent, or they've had an abatement on their mortgage. That bill's coming due. I don't know how they're going to handle that after almost a year of not making payments if they haven't made payments. Some people have kept up with it, but that could blow up consumer spending. And as you know, consumer spending is 70% of the economy. And I don't care what bill Congress passes, there's no way they can fund every mortgage across the country or rent bill for the last 9 months.
So, as you know, last night they did pass that dribble of a bill. And so basically what they did was they've kept the people from falling off the cliff or getting pushed off the cliff. They're hanging by their toenails. And you're right, it's consumer confidence and consumer spending, which runs this whole shebang. And when you hear that new house sales have gone down for the last 2 months, even though it's been up, booming, it's not lasting. It's not going to last. And we're going into the winter months and people aren't going to be buying houses. So that affects everything else down the line, up and down the river.
Yeah.
So again, I'm sort of looking at this as the Reconstruction after the Civil War. And I kind of philosophize it that it is or was a civil war that we've just gone through. A political one nonetheless, but you know, it divided our country in so many ways. It's going to take forever to rebuild that. Some people are still fighting the first one down south. So the economy really relies on, as you said, consumer spending with consumer intent on buying products. But other than that, we got a long road to hoe here.
Well, certainly we have a significant recovery to do in 2021, probably 2022.
Sure.
You can't just shut down a national economy or a global economy and not expect ripples for quite some time. And I think that's what we're going to see. I'm not sure it's going to be smooth sailing. I agree with you that people are now running through their savings. The holiday season has passed. So now they're looking at January. Finances are going to be tough. If anybody has been remortgaging their homes to get the lower rates, most of that has been done. So new home sales, new mortgages probably are not going to be booming in the future either, as you mentioned. So I expect that could be a drag on the economy. If a Biden administration puts back in the restrictions that were on manufacturing 5 years ago, that could discourage manufacturers from putting up capital expenditures for expansion, so they may pull that back. Any of that begins to put too much of a drag on the economy, Lou, and the R word that they tried to pitch in early 2019 and 2020 could come to fruition in 2021 as a recession. Could be serious.
Yeah, and there was another one of the little bubbles that came up during the course of my 3 days of introspectiveness. There's a whole movement that's been going on in this country now for several years, and it's called the reshoring movement. And they want to bring jobs back to America, which they've been doing. And where are they going to get jobs? They're bringing back the jobs, meaning work, product. But if no one is buying it, it doesn't do a thing.
That's clearly the part of the problem is if you can bring the production back. But a lot of what we're going to see, Lou, as we have been talking with companies throughout 2020, and even back as far back as 2019, is that automation is beginning to displace jobs. And COVID certainly has displaced jobs. And I'm not sure that the production floors are going to be fully staffed as they were 2 years ago. They could be at half that level of staffing or a third that level of staffing. And even though some jobs have been displaced and you have people running machines with iPads, so they're being reskilled to do new things, I don't know where the issue is.
I can take that even one step further. I was just reading a report, and basically it's about the robots running the robots. Now that's been one of the greatest fears that the average worker has dwelled on and is fearful of, is that, well, okay, so they bring in a robot, makes my job easier. Well, now they're going to bring in another robot to replace me. And I'm not sure that's not going to happen. So we'll all just live in the lap of luxury on some island, having vodka martinis or Gibson, and the whole world is just going to change.
Yeah, I don't know how much is going to impact the manufacturing floor, but I think it's going to be quite a bit. So I think we'll see that shift. We could see a shift in policy that could affect manufacturing. We could see a pullback in capital expenditures. And sometime in the next week or so, we're going to be doing a report with Tim Fiore and Anthony Nieves about the ISM's forecast for 2021, which has been pretty good. The only fly in that ointment is that it's really looking at a measure of change from a rotten economy. I mean, an economy that was shut down, stopped. So I don't know that it's going to be as accurate as it has been in the past, but we'll have to see when we have that discussion with them. It should be very interesting. People should tune in for that because that's another facet of looking ahead in 2021.
As you know, Tim, I've been following that report since the late 50s. They've been around since 1937, and my business being a manufactured metals industry, part of the SIC code, standard industrial classification, and I follow that. I follow the ISM, and very frankly, they're usually they're always right on top of it. I don't necessarily believe the numbers that we're seeing now, because I think that what's keeping the numbers up is one or two of the 18 industries that they track, that they're so outstandingly up, it brings the whole average up. I could be wrong. That's my belief. I've looked at the numbers, and frankly, I'm going to put a money bet on this. And if Anthony or Tim see this before we do the show, the bet is on. I'll bet you a double sawbuck that the number is going down.
Oh, the January number?
The January number is
All
going
right,
down. A double sawbuck for each of them. And I'll pay right on the air when we interview them next week.
Yes, you can use the Cash app and send the money directly to them.
Right.
Or Venmo or whatever they use these days.
Right. So it's going to be another strange year and very different. And hopefully, the COVID, hopefully COVID gets resolved. But now they got the new one, COVID-2.
Yes, the mutation. We'll have to see if the vaccine is as effective against the mutation. And this is very common with viruses. Unfortunately, this virus is pretty virulent. It does a lot of damage. It's not like the common cold. So we'll have to see as we march through 2021 if that Pfizer vaccine or Moderna or 19 others that are in development will knock down this particular variant of COVID. I think the biggest unknown right now, Lou, is COVID and how, frankly, state governments, and the federal government react to it. There's a new tug of war going on that shutdowns don't slow the progress of the virus. Wearing masks don't slow the progress of the virus. I mean, more people are wearing masks today than were wearing them in March of 2020, and yet the virus is exploding. So,
well, that is, but that has more to do with people not wearing a mask and it spreads. Period. End of story.
Well, no proof of that so far. And matter of fact, the scientists are saying just the opposite. And Biden's going to listen to the scientists. So we're going to see who's listening to who as this thing rolls out. This is a tough nut to crack. COVID is going to be difficult for the world economy, and particularly in the United States. The strongest economy in the world is struggling. And that means, as you know, Lou, with our exports and imports, the ripple effect is going to hit every other economy around the world.
Absolutely. The one that's going to become the strongest is China.
Yes, China has their own plan to supplant us as the world economic power and the world superpower. And yeah, I guess they're making pretty good progress along those lines.
Yeah, they are. They are. So this is what 2021 is going to look like. It's the reconstruction of the American Republic, taking into account everything from around the corner to the other side of the planet. It's an awesome challenge that we have going for us, and unfortunately, there aren't enough people yet buying in and understanding that we're talking about saving the planet, saving humanity. I mean, these are monumental issues, and we're diddling with somebody wants a signature on a check. I mean, sorry, couldn't help myself.
Yeah, there are clearly massive issues. And as we have discussed before, each group has their own science to support their particular point of view.
Right.
It's unfortunate that there isn't one set of facts to go by, at least not that's been presented anytime, any place in the last 20 years. Right. So it's just going to be interesting to see how we deal with that going forward. Manufacturing, I think, will continue to churn along in a pretty healthy state in 2021, but I don't think we're going to see 3 and 4% on GDP growth. We could be again in the 1 and 2 range.
Never happened. Never happened. China claims that they've got 8%. That's down from 12. But who knows their numbers? Between fiddling with the numbers and fiddling with the monetary system. So we're all being used and manipulated by the power structure, which is money, around the world.
No doubt. No doubt. And unfortunately, it's also affected the mainstream news media. I'm not a fan of any channel at this point, other than some of the things that we try to put together, Lou, and share with our listeners, because it's terribly, terribly jaded. Either terribly jaded left or terribly jaded right. And there doesn't seem to be any kind of news reporting as you and I experienced growing up that was pretty even-handed and pretty factual. Now it's journalistic jabber. They're just having a fun time presenting things the way they want to present them. And so we're not really getting hard news. We're getting hard opinion.
Yeah. Yep. And it's that's not going to change much. The last 4 years, media has had a picnic in terms of subject matter. A scandal a day will keep the bill collector away. And that seems to be working pretty good. I think that's about to change, though, after a couple of months. But we'll have to see how, not speaking politically, of course, see how the next administration gets through the first 100 days.
Yeah, that'll be incredibly important for manufacturing, for the U.S. economy, for this rebuild. Because as ISM points out, even though their number is a month-over-month change, right, and for the most part, it will be above 50. It will vary between, I think their high's been 63 and their low might be above 50. It's going to bounce around in that range, but we'll just have to see if it's really a measure of monthly change. And we're not back to pre-COVID days. We're not back to the end of 2019 with a booming economy. We have some pockets doing well. We have some change happening, but it's a long way to get back to where we were before this hit.
If that even happens. I mean, we're talking about, I heard numbers like 10 years for us to break through the blockade that existed.
Possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as creating jobs, the Franklin Roosevelt New Deal got us out of a real dilemma. And then, of course, the war started, and then we were cooking. Business all over the country was doing extremely well. But the point is that there are jobs. We do have people. They're bringing people back from bringing jobs back to reshore here. Start the Reconstruction as a federal project, or subcontracted to local organizations, and get the thing going. You can put millions of people to work. And one of the other things that we see, and you and I have seen over the last several years, about women in the workplace and women in manufacturing. As some of you know, we do have a show called Women in Manufacturing, WHAM, and it's all about obviously women and in manufacturing and business, and they like in the Second World War probably, I would say, helped us in the war. Because if it wasn't for the women working, with the Rosie the Riveters, and you know them, we've had two on our show over the past couple of years, and they're still amazing people. So you got to use the amazing people, the empowered people, to move this country forward.
No question, Lou. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah. I think we're facing a reconstruction of the American Republic. And think of that as a positive. And we're going to put that out. That belongs to NCR.
All right.
We'll make a lot of money with it.
Well, we certainly appreciate everyone tuning in and following us on these video events. We're going to be doing more of these in 2021. Manufacturing Talk Radio is going to probably be converting largely to video. We'll have still audio pieces, but it'll probably be the audio from the video that we post on Manufacturing Talk Radio, also on the C-Suite Network. So come to our sites and check us out at jacketmediaco.com. You'll find links to all of our shows, this show, Manufacturing Talk Radio, the WHAM podcast that Lou just mentioned, which is Women in Manufacturing, Hazard Girls, which talks about women in unusual roles in business and industry, Where's Willie with William Miller, who travels the country and talks to us from the manufacturing floors themselves, the production site, and Manufacturing Matters with Cliff Waldman, an economist who talks about what is happening in manufacturing and why manufacturing matters. As always, thank you for listening to this episode.
And Happy New Year to all.
To all, yeah. Thanks, Lou.